More than a month ago, Highland Park Mayor Nancy Rotering and members of her city council started marching in the July 4th parade. I was there, and I saw them pass me by. A few minutes later, everything changed. A gunman, standing on the roof of a store in downtown Highland Park and Central Avenue, in the space of a minute, using an assault weapon, was able to fire 83 bullets, killing 7, wounding 48. Mayor Nancy Rotering found herself thrust in a position of guiding her community through and past the shock and trauma. Joining me now in the Highland Park City Hall is Mayor Nancy Rotering. Madam Mayor, thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Lynn.
So we are speaking more than a month after the massacre, and people are already talking about having a memorial in this city. I was at the city council meeting in August where it came up. Could you just tell our viewers what the plans may be and what you have in mind?
Well, we know that we want to have a permanent place of remembrance, of reflection. Already we have had 3 memorials sort of spring up organically within the city near the site where the shooting occurred, and then also about a block away. And those have been sort of oasis for folks who are looking for a way to come together, to find peace. They've been listening to music and writing notes and so forth. But obviously we'll need something that will withstand time and Chicago weather.
So one of the things that is so striking about this, and as I said, we were both there and I reported on it, was I knew from the moment I realized what happened that this is a suburb that had an assault weapon ban, and it was obvious from the carnage that it was highly likely, it was later proved to be true, that that kind of weapon was used. So this was in 2013. You battle it up and down to the highest court, and you have one. So you have said this ban is really, it speaks for itself. Highland Park is just an island. As we speak, it's pretty clear that Congress is not going to move any further. I covered you when you were in Washington at that Senate Judiciary Committee, and I saw how the Republican senators just resisted, in a sense, almost everything you were saying. You seemed, what is your reaction to that? Do you think there's a way that you could get around it, or does it mean you just shift to seeing what you could do in the state?
I felt undaunted, frankly. I was appalled, I was disgusted. I couldn't believe that people were disrespecting our willingness to share our experience. We are all Americans. We, I would hope, all view life as sacred, and to not even give us the respect of hearing our detailed situation and our stories, to me, seemed frankly like a breach of their responsibility. That being said, I've spoken to numerous mayors, not just in Illinois, but across the country, not just those who've been impacted by mass shootings, but those who fear mass shootings. And we know that all the mayors have that adage of it's not if, but when. And they're on all sides of the political spectrum. They're furious. They recognize that the horror, the physical pain, the emotional agony, all of the detrimental things that come with a mass shooting are any-day occurrences in this country, and they're furious that nobody is taking this to the highest level and getting the job done. So to me, we're not daunted. We are going to continue to pursue this through the mayors, through state legislators, and see what we can achieve and move this ball forward. It's all we can do to get these combat weapons out of this country.
Finally, as we wrap this up, will there be a July 4th parade next year?
So we're still talking about what is appropriate in terms of the year remembrance of this horror coming to Highland Park. In my mind, we will have a ceremony in the morning and recognize and talk about those that we lost and those who are still recovering. And again, there are people who will be recovering for the rest of their lives. And I'm not sure what will happen after that. So we'll keep you posted.
Mayor Nancy Rotering, thank you very much for joining us at the table.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you. under a open air structure right by the train tracks, down the block from the epicenter of the attack. When did this start to get created?
I want to say maybe a week after the shooting, 2 guys from California put the altars up of the victims, the digital altars. And it seemed to me that people were arriving in silence and sadness and leaving in silence and sadness. And I guess I kind of just thought that seemed a little sadder than it needed to be. So I came the next morning and I tied a ball of yarn to each one of these pillars. And as people came to the memorial with their flowers and their teddy bears and their candles, I just asked them, do you want to wrap this post? And people said, yes. So my installation actually was at the Highland Park Art Center just a block away. And that's 30,000 pieces of orange fabric that represent all the kids who've been killed since Sandy Hook. And before it was at the Art Center, it was actually down in Inglewood for the Wear Orange Peace Rally. And before that, it was on the lawn of the United States Capitol. So the piece was here already. And we had an event with Moms Demand Action and Students Demand Action. And we actually read the Texas names. And we said this just as easily could have been our own kids. And then 9 days later, it was.
So this work of public art started with some other people just putting the pictures in the little altar of the victims. And as you said, you came here, you thought there was more, and you started wrapping. We now see all these messages from people, flowers.
People have written, there are over 6,000 notes now that are here on these columns.
It doesn't say who it's from, but it says, change can happen, but it must begin with us, with you. Spread smiles, not bullets. Learn to use your words to resolve conflicts. Be kind. Give a hug to someone who needs it.
What is it that you've been trying to do with this space?
We've been trying to create a space that is healing, restorative, warm, peaceful, and also empowering. The goal is to channel anguish into action. And if we can do that, if we can transcend this experience, not move on, but move forward, we will have done a very important thing. And I think we're at the cusp of systemic change.
Jacqueline Van Everbroek, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lynn.
July 4th was one of the first times that we took our 2 very small children out since this pandemic started. We have a 3 and a 1-year-old, and my husband manages the Gearhead store, so I came with my in-laws and my 2 children to watch the parade while my husband kind of popped in and out of work. So we were right here between Ross Cosmetics and Gearhead.
We had the parade right out here, right off Central. So I just made sure to swing out every once in a while just to see how the family was doing, how the kids were enjoying the parade.
My daughter started to fuss, so I was going to bring her into my husband's store so she could run around a little bit, my 1-year-old, and that's when I heard what I thought were the sound of fireworks, and very quickly became aware that that's not what it was that I was hearing.
And I turned around thinking, what moron is blowing off fireworks at this kind of event? And I turned around, but there was nobody behind me.
I actually looked up on top of the roof and saw the gunman crouch down, aiming at people, and I shouted to the crowd around me that I had seen a gunman and to get down. I think it was like right over here, and so I got down with my daughter close to my chest.
Standing right about here, because the crowd is up in front, the family's up in front, part of the family's over there, and I am just, I'm watching what's going on. The shots go off, I turn back, and I take a piece of shrapnel. So he must have hit over here, and I took a piece of shrapnel into my leg there. And then I feel the rest of everything happening around me. I turn back around this way, and I see a branch fall from the tree up there as it lands. And then we are all starting to run at that point.
As I was running into the store with my daughter in my hand, I felt something sharp graze my side. And the adrenaline was so strong at that point that I had recognized the pain, but it wasn't as scary as is my daughter hit? Is the rest of my family okay? At the time, all I knew was to protect my daughter, and I didn't have time to look around and ensure that my son was safe in my mother-in-law's arms. So my biggest concern at that point was not that I was injured, but that if I had gotten hit, was my daughter hit that was in my arms. So, later on I felt the pain a little bit more, but the adrenaline really prevented me from feeling too much.
I just remember my instinct was exactly like my dad said. You see people running and your first instinct is to just try and corral as many people as you can in. My dad came in, my wife and daughter were followed, and then my mom and son came in. They were the last ones. But that was just kind of the big thing was, how do we get as many people in here and what are we running from?
We look out the window and then we witness individuals that are down on the ground. There's a lovely older lady who is stumbled on the ground out here. I come out to pick her up and bring her into the store.
We had people that were grazed, we had people that had minor injuries, we had people that had fallen, that were scraped up. So it was from shrapnel to just bumps and bruises.
I initially thought that I was grazed by a bullet, but after kind of looking at it and having the paramedics look at it, it does look like it was shrapnel that had ricocheted off something and hit me. So there's an abrasion on my side, and immediately there was bruising all around it. And then so the few days later, there was a lot of bruising, and I still have a scar from the abrasion on my side. They did bring me outside, right outside of Ross, to be triaged, and that's when it really sank in, was seeing the injuries around me. They gave me gloves and I applied pressure to a woman's leg because I was like, I'm the last that needs to be looked at here. I'm fine. They just gave me gloves and they were like, can you apply pressure to her leg? And so I was able to do that while all the other medical professionals were running around.
Tony and I witnessed them put the gentleman into the ambulance that expired on his way to the hospital.
I had a month to kind of process everything, kind of at home by myself. Being a teacher, I had that 1 month left of summer to be with my kids and do that. And so this last month has really been a lot of getting reacclimated into the routine of working and walking into a school every day where these things happen. It's like my school has had to create accommodations for me as if they would for a student. Even today we had a fire drill. They let me stand outside before the fire drill so I don't have to be around the loud noises. We have our first lockdown drill this Friday, so there's no way I can be in the school during that. So they're letting me leave for a little bit and come back while somebody covers my classroom. My son brings it up from time to time. We're thinking about sending him to therapy just to see what's going on in his brain. It's hard with my daughter. A lot of her behaviors are different now, but we're not sure if it's just a stage she's going through. I honestly don't think our children have slept through the night once since this happened. And again, we don't know if that's a stage that they're going through or whether it's something to do with this, and to get that out of my daughter would be really difficult. So anticipating how this trauma might play out in their lives is something that weighs heavily on my heart a lot.
On July 4th, you were at Green Bay and Central. It's about 10:14 a.m. and the Highland Park High School band had just marched by you. Then what happened?
They started running and I didn't understand it. And one of the band members said, there's a shooter. So I went into military mode and I raised my arms and told people in the crowd to clear the street. I then radioed in to my commander that this is Sir Lamort, I'm coming in. There was a policeman right to my left running at full speed, so I knew something was terribly happening.
And so the scene is right by Walker Brothers Pancake House by Port Clinton Square. And what did you see?
I saw people running. I saw bodies that were unresponsive. I saw medics. I saw firemen. I saw policemen. I saw civilians. I saw things that I'm trying to put aside.
Have you walked down to the scene since then?
I have several times.
And I know I was on the scene too because I walked into it, and I know I have seared into my memory what I saw at the time. I wonder, how is it like for you?
You know what? It's almost cleansing. It's like I needed to see it again, just so that I could work through it.
We're seated right by the memorial here, and people come. And tell me the story of how you met two of the people who were among the 48 wounded and reconnected with them.
I met one of their cousins, and I had been talking about two people that I helped, and she's like, I know them. So we agreed to meet here. I went and grabbed the city manager because I wanted to do everything by the book. And we came here, and it was such a nice feeling.
What does it mean now when you're an emergency responder, volunteer to help at events, certainly an event of this magnitude, probably unimaginable, and then you meet the people who you helped? Does that help you move ahead, or were you just curious about what happened to them?
No, absolutely. I wanted to have that completion, to see even if they remembered me. I mean, the trauma that went on, who knows? And when I walked in, she remembered me, and so did her father. And it was just such a wonderful, warming feeling.
And what does it mean to come to this memorial that is here for now?
I come here every day. I get up in the morning, I just come down and straighten up what I can. But to me, it's been like a therapy. I come here in the afternoon, and people want to talk about what their experience was. And they hear that I was a first responder, so they feel comfortable talking to me. That's helped me tremendously.
Well, as time goes on, the best to you. Kathy Lamort, thank you very much for joining me
My
and
pleasure.
telling me your story.
I'm glad I was where I was when I was there.